Chairs have played a prominent role in executions for centuries. Although a strange way to begin a video looking at a dark subject, the execution chair today might be most thought of when linked to electrocution in America. But they were an important piece of equipment used in the process of taking the lives of people. For example, during hangings, when a victim would be brought to the gallows, they were often forced to stand on a stool before the noose was secured around their neck. This would then be kicked out from underneath them, or would fall when the trapdoor was opened. But they were also used when someone was sent to a firing range for their deaths. When the firing squad performed executions, they needed a target to remain still and steady, and because of this, condemned people were tied to chairs. They were then executed on them, in the same way that execution posts or stakes were used. But inside of the Tower of London, there is a particular chair on display that has a very dark story involving the Second World War, and a German spy who has gone down in history as the final person to be executed within the walls of the infamous Tower of London. Welcome to the fortress. Today we look at the execution chair of the Tower of London, and to support our channel, please make sure to click subscribe down below. Inside the White Tower, the oldest part of the Tower of London, is a remarkable exhibition which shows off much of the Royal Armoury's collection. Included in this is a line of kings, armour from former kings and monarchs including Henry VIII, and other objects including the last executioner's axe, which was used upon Tower Hill. The size of the axe is something rather surprising, as it's absolutely huge. But near to this on one of the upper floors is a simple Windsor-style chair that looks like something your grandma would have in her house around a wooden dinner table. But this chair is damaged, and it has a rather dark story involving the last execution of the Tower of London. Josef Jakobs was a German spy who trained in Hamburg, inside of Nazi Germany, and he was given the best training available to give him the best chance of operating for long periods of time behind enemy lines. He was then on the 31st of January 1941 sent in the belly of a German aircraft to England. He jumped out of the plane around 8:30 p.m. in the evening, and he parachuted down behind enemy lines. He landed poorly and broke his ankle, but after burying his radio transmitter, he was captured after firing his weapon the next morning. He was arrested first by the Home Guard, and he was then transferred to the police. In London he was interrogated by MI5, and he was then brought to trial for his crimes of spying. According to the Treachery Act, he was liable to be executed by hanging, but as he was also an enemy soldier, Josef Jakobs was actually sentenced to death to be executed by firing squad. It did not take him long to be found guilty, and he then appealed to King George VI for clemency, but this was rejected. Josef Jakobs was held inside of Wandsworth Prison, but he was to be executed elsewhere, inside the most iconic fortress in London, the Tower of London. Of course, the Tower was most famous for executions during the Tudor period by sword or axe, as two of Henry VIII's wives lost their heads there. But the final execution that occurred inside the Tower was of the German spy Josef Jakobs, and on the 15th of August 1941, he arrived at the Tower for his date with the executioner. He was given a form of medication to relax him before he was led to the rifle range inside the Tower, which today still looks like a shed and a shack found inside the inner and outer walls of the Tower on the east part, next to where Tower Bridge is. He was taken into the firing range, and he passed his execution squad, who stood with their Lee Enfield rifles by their sides. The Scots Guards had been given 3 weapons with blanks and 5 with live ammunition inside, and Josef Jakobs was taken over to a brown Windsor chair which had been placed in the middle of the firing range. This is the same chair found on display at the Tower today. He was blindfolded as well as tied to the chair tightly, and then a small target was placed over his heart. As the executioners readied themselves, Jakobs said, "Shoot straight Tommies," and all the soldiers shot towards their target. It was confirmed in his post-mortem that the 5 live rounds had gone into his chest, and 1 had gone straight through his heart. But of course the chair that the last man executed inside the Tower of London was secured to was kept as a historical artefact. You can see towards the top of the chair the damage caused when the bullets fired into their target, as they went straight through Josef Jakobs and then broke off the wood behind. But today thousands of people pass by this chair behind a glass case, and they probably don't read the information behind the story. But it has a rather dark history linked to the final execution of the Tower of London. Thanks for watching. To support our channel, please make sure to subscribe, and once again, thank you so much for watching.